Friends star Matthew Perry has died aged 54, after drowning in his jacuzzi at home, sources have told Daily Mail. Law enforcement sources said the actor was found on Saturday at a home in Los Angeles after first responders were called to the scene at around 4 p.m. PDT for a cardiac arrest. Sources said he was found in a jacuzzi at the home but that no drugs were discovered at the scene, and there was no indication of foul play. He had reportedly played a 2-hour game of pickleball prior to his death, after which he sent his assistant out on an errand. When they returned, the assistant found Perry unresponsive and dialed 911. Law enforcement sources said the actor was found on Saturday at a home in Los Angeles. Perry rose to fame for his role as Chandler Bing on the hit 90s sitcom Friends, which ran for 10 seasons. A source told the outlet there was no sign of foul play, and that robbery-homicide detectives are investigating his death. Perry has been candid publicly about his problems with drugs and alcohol, after first going to rehab in 1997 for what was said to a pain medication addiction after a jet skiing accident. Following this initial stint, he then went to rehab again in 2001 and 2011. A longtime friend of Perry's, who was in recovery with him, told DailyMail.com, "Everyone is in a total state of shock. People are crying on the phone and struggling to accept this news. It's no secret that he struggled with drugs and alcohol for years, but the last time I spoke to him, which was within the last few weeks, he seemed to be in a good place. He was upbeat and sounded sober and positive. He'd been to rehab 17 times and nearly died from opioid abuse, but he was someone who was sincere about taking his life and his sobriety, one day at a time." He first went to rehab in 1997 for what was said to a pain medication addiction after a jet skiing accident. In his last post to his Instagram, posted earlier this week, the star shared images of him in his pool. Perry also revealed that his colon ruptured as a result of his opioid addiction when he was 49. Doctors gave him only a 2% chance of survival, and he was in a coma for 2 weeks, followed by months more in the hospital. Born on August 19, 1969 in Massachusetts, Perry grew up in Ottawa and was raised by his mother, Suzanne Morrison, a Canadian writer and former press aide for Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. Morrison and Perry's father were married from 1968 to 1970, and she later married Canadian broadcast journalist Keith Morrison, who has been on Dateline for decades, in 1981. In the 1980s and 90s, Perry landed spots on the decade's most popular TV shows like Charles in Charge, Who's the Boss? Perry's dream of widespread recognition came true with the NBC sitcom Friends, which followed the lives of 6 people trying to make their way in their 20s in New York City. After the series, he was in several television shows but did not achieve the longevity and success of Friends. He continued to land roles in movies like 2009's 17 Again. Perry never married and ended his engagement to Molly Hurwitz, a talent manager, in 2021. He dated several well-known actresses including Julia Roberts and Lizzie Kaplan.